probably shouldn't have said that, but I probably shouldn't have done a lot of things in my career.
But one thing I would love to know is what would it take for you to get back into a wrestling ring?
After watching the Brodie Lee memorial service on a special edition of AEW Dynamite, CM Punk finally decided to join AEW.
One of the big things that turned me on to them, and the wrestling world lost Brodie Lee, his sickness and everything that was known in the company, but they kept it so secret. And wrestlers will always tell you that, oh, the boys, we're a big family and we care about each other. None of that is entirely true, but to see everyone in the company band together just to keep a secret about somebody's health, I was blown away that it wasn't plastered all over every single website, and it was just kept secret, and that made me go, oh, there's something to that locker room.
CM Punk had always pointed out how fake the locker room was, claiming that the boys aren't really your friends and will betray you.
My stance on when people are all like, oh, the boys, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no such thing. And if you think there is, then chances are you're on a different level, and I don't mean a higher one, and I don't mean any disrespect. It's just that where I was at that time, it's insane how it's not a real sport, but it's more cutthroat than a real sport.
Who are you as a person walking into this?
A person that is grateful that I can get back to falling in love and enjoying professional wrestling, but also knowing I don't have to be consumed by it and so obsessed to a point of self-destruction.
CM Punk returned to wrestling with AEW in 2021, a startup that began in 2019. Signaling a potential changing of the guard in the industry. Could this be the company that overtakes WWE?
Now's the time. If somebody wants to make a move head-to-head with AEW, we signed CM Punk, we signed Bryan Danielson, we signed Adam Cole, we signed Ruby Soho. We already have the top stars we could go on for hours about.
With a strong following thanks to Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, AEW is proving that WWE's approach isn't the only way to present wrestling to the mainstream. After signing a TV deal with TNT for a second show called Rampage, CM Punk debuts on the second episode to a record-breaking number of viewers.
Somebody who I believe was coming back from the United Center is Professor Kevin. Welcome to the show. How was the first dance?
Oh, it was a religious experience. I have never been to a wrestling show that was more fun, that had more positivity, where just collectively the entire audience was rooting for something that we all wanted to see, and we got it. That reaction, to be a part of that, I know I will never, ever forget this night. That was the best wrestling experience I've ever had. Easy. I've got my ice cream bar wrapper right here. They delivered on that. That wasn't even a joke. So, they make promises and they deliver. This company, goodwill through the roof for me.
It was an incredible weekend for professional wrestling. But even though SummerSlam saw the returns of both Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar, it was still CM Punk's AEW debut that stole the show. And in the process, he officially made that promotion a thing.
I'm not Hogan. I'm not Savage. Daniel Bryan and Adam Cole, they're not the outsiders. I see the parallels. This is totally different, and I'll go ahead and say it. To me, this is bigger.
My name is Mike, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley. I'd like to title this video, WWE, We've Got a Problem, because I think you do. And that problem is that WWE is no longer the place for talent to aspire to.
What happens when you haven't been in a locker room for 7 years? Has it changed?
Because for sure, there's probably people who had bad experiences with me because I was like, wrestling, no, this is the way it's got to be, and we're old school and we got to be tough, and now I'm just like, no, man, because what's more important than wrestling to me is that guy, Larry, my wife.
So I don't know if he shared this, but the conversation was a conversation, I think, way longer than people knew, with many things happening in the universe. There was many options.
Having had his heart broken by fake and phony people who used him selfishly.
That being said, I'm over it. I've been over it for a very long time. It's in the past.
Punk's biggest reason for joining AEW was seeing how they protected the illness of one of their own. But is this company really different?
How are you feeling right now?
I've never felt better in my entire life. It's the greatest feeling in my entire life. I've never felt better. I can't believe we pulled it off, and this has been a long time. Like Mr. Punk said, it's been almost 2 years in the making, so it's pretty special, and thank you very much.
Thank you. The rumors of CM Punk debuting were just that, highlighting how AEW might differ from his past experiences.
Right.
Every pay-per-view we've ever done has gone up year over year, which shows the movement is growing and growing and growing. See some shows doing the same stuff over and over, and I try to give, good shows to the fans, and I think we've built this audience coming in from nowhere.
And I try to be as zen and as wise as I possibly can be, and my life has taught me a lot of the times that I would be confrontational when there's maybe no need to be confrontational.
To create a more sports-like presentation, Brandy Rhodes suggested introducing press conferences for their pay-per-view post-shows, inviting the media, something WWE rarely ever did. This would force Punk into a room with many people he had likely blocked on Twitter in the past.
The first storyline that CM Punk took part in was with Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston and CM Punk was the first real rivalry.
Don't paint me into a corner like I'm the bad guy here. You interrupted me.
Yes, I interrupted the great CM Punk. Oh no! Oh God!
That happened in the return career of CM Punk, and that was the moment that
I came to that locker room for brotherhood, and all you did was judge me. What? Because I didn't play everyone's game? I didn't kiss ass? I didn't become friends with the booker? I didn't bury other people to get my own stuff in?
Things started to go, I wonder if there is a little tension.
Nobody wants you here. They never wanted you here. That whole locker room's afraid to say it. Got me. So get up.
And it was like, whoa.
Quit again and leave for 7 years and don't.
We hadn't.
I hear people tell me that I need to be mad, that I need to be pissed off, and they want the old CM Punk. Well, trust me, I'd imagine eventually you'll see him, but be careful what you wish for.
We hadn't heard this before. CM Punk ends up beating Eddie Kingston.
To me, it was, I didn't want anything to feel like you were like that person going back and hanging out with like high school kids, and you're like, what's up, young kids? What's happening, fellow kids?
Cool, riding on a skateboard, like.
Yeah, but I just wanted him to be like emotionally safe and protected.
Yeah.
And that's been like the coolest thing about his experience here is that it feels like he's always in a safe place and has a good group of people around him at AEW, and so that makes me very happy.
The best storyline that he had in AEW, the MJF CM Punk story, it was the story, ironically, of Punk feeling like this young kid who hadn't done much in the industry was not respectful to CM Punk's legacy.
Is it unprofessional to be eating blueberries while doing an interview?
CM Punk believes wrestling media isn't true journalism, except for a very select few, as anyone can create a Twitter account and claim to be a wrestling journalist.
CM Punk said that MJF stood for...
I'm jealous fan.
Saying that MJF was just a CM Punk fan. They brought out the photo of MJF meeting CM Punk at an autograph signing. CM Punk thought that he had set MJF straight.
I sure am trying.
MJF gave him a hug, but only to give him a low blow. This was when MJF really became evil MJF. In fact, it's the first time that MJF really became the devil.
You stupid old man. I'm a snake.
Borrowing. So much was borrowed from CM Punk's history in Ring of Honor.
Disagree with that? Oh, come on, Spears.
And there was almost this silent passing of the torch where that sort of most controversial character who through his stories is going to get the entire industry talking, whether or not you put the spotlight him or not, that was CM Punk at the end of that Ring of Honor run is now MJF. Because when MJF put CM Punk down,
I'm gonna show you and all these mindless sheep that I am the...
He used the line that CM Punk used in Ring of Honor that came from The Usual Suspects, which is the greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
Was convincing the world he doesn't exist.
And then he screamed at CM Punk that I
am the devil himself.
MJF was able to get CM Punk's first loss. MJF was the first person in AEW to actually score a victory over CM Punk. Of course, the story climaxed with CM Punk, or we thought anyway, with CM Punk getting his victory back in a now classic dog collar match which was just a bloody affair where CM Punk brought back his Ring of Honor shorts, the basketball shorts, and entrance for the very first time. When you go back now and you look at some of that MJF CM Punk stuff, it really holds up.
To kind of pay homage to, you know, myself and stuff like that. Listen, I didn't get to do this for 7 years. This didn't exist for 7 years for me. And, you know, obviously the truth is that I love professional wrestling very much. So, you know, to come back and to be able to for 6 months, you know, it's not just do whatever the fuck you want. It's doing whatever the fuck you want and being cocky enough to know that your way is not the right way. There's never only one right way, but it's fucking good.
Absolutely classic. That is peak CM Punk in AEW. So CM Punk, after conquering MJF, would announce that he was in AEW to become the champion.
He also noticed how many wrestlers in AEW were closely tied to prominent wrestling journalists, such as Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
In May of 2022, at Double or Nothing, CM Punk would beat Adam Page for the AEW championship.
In the lead-up to CM Punk becoming AEW champion for the first time, Hangman Page, the current champion, would go off script in a promo leading up to their match at Double or Nothing. And after confronting Hangman Page, Punk is told he knows he tried to get Cabana fired. Punk denies this and asks Tony to squash this rumor, insisting it's untrue. Just days later, Meltzer reports in the Wrestling Observer that Punk tried to get Cabana fired, an article published just days before his title victory in May of 2022.
This is our first $1 million house. I love every single one of you. And I am a champion once again in professional wrestling because of all of you. And I promise you ain't seen nothing yet. Thank you, Las Vegas.
Shortly after, Punk wins the championship and attends a press conference with these journalists and others.
Still interested in a final run in the current WWE to test yourself even more? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've got a lot of friends there.
Well, you can take the title off Cody. Hangman and Kenny, the four of us, we negotiated together. One day, this person's voting to leave, this person's voting to go. We weren't even on the same page the whole time.
I could have walked in a SummerSlam that night with the AEW combo.
Just this whole company is just the playground for Chris Jericho, and anybody that works with him ends up being lower on the roster.
AEW was supposed to be a game changer.
I wish I had my phone so I could see if I have WrestleZone blocked on Twitter or not.
Skyrocketed your professional wrestling career. To come back here 10 years, 11 years later, does it feel like a full circle type moment?
The 7 years I was out of the ring, I didn't feel was wasted. I feel almost that the 10 years that I spent in WWE was wasted. I reached the potential that I could have given the limitations they constantly put on me. And I feel here, there's no limitations put on myself or anybody, and sky's the limit.
Now in a room with journalists Meltzer and Alvarez, Punk notices that they don't ask about the rumors they posted days earlier. He pointedly asks them if they have any questions.
Dave, you good? You got anything else? You good? You good? Brian, you good? You right? You sure?
I actually got one question. I don't want to kiss your ass here, but...
Mark!
But they choose to only compliment him. But this is not where the story ends.
No, please, kiss my ass. That's why I'm here.
CM Punk just wants to go back to doing what he loves and help the next generation. Dealing with these journalists adds a new wrinkle to his professional wrestling life.
He's the greatest, and he was right. He was fucking, Bret Hart is always right.
CM Punk is hated by Triple H and the McMahons, leaving AEW as his only real option. He needs to make this work.
However,
the bad news is,
before the summer of Punk was able to really begin, CM Punk announced that he had a foot injury.
a couple of things are broken. The biggest one is my heart.
And he was not going to be able to defend his title. Apparently, he had gotten the injury while celebrating his championship victory on the Dynamite that was after Double or Nothing. While he was gone, Jon Moxley is crowned the interim champ. And this is where stuff starts to get real quirky.
After getting injured on Dynamite just days after winning the title, Punk requires surgery and disappears for months. During this time, more rumors about him surface. His first public appearance is at an August Comic-Con with other AEW wrestlers.
They say right now is the best time to be a wrestling fan.
Tweeted that I'm retired. You think he's not going to be hands-on and he's not going to... Oh boy, people are going to be real fucking mad about this, but fuck it. Mercedes and Trinity leave, and they announce on SmackDown that, gosh darn, we're so disappointed in them and they really let our fans down. Brock splits. Where's Michael Cole saying, man, Brock Lesnar really let these fans down? I walked out. They went on TV and they called me a quitter. What's changed?
Where he downplays any issues and continues to praise AEW. However, AEW roster member Orange Cassidy, who attended the same event with Punk, mentioned in an interview how Colt Cabana used to help him with his character work.
Colt Cabana was actually one that really I was able to go to and kind of workshop ways for me to wrestle, and it helped me significantly. So he was one guy that early on was great for me. And, now I don't work with anybody.
But now he has no guidance since Cabana hasn't been around.
CM Punk returns at the end of the summer. He still has his belt, and Jon Moxley has his title as the interim champion. Punk returned. He got in the ring, and he said, I've got a couple of things to do, some important, some less important.
I want to get the not so important things out of the way.
I want to offer somebody a rematch.
And I'd like to do it right here, right now for you beautiful people.
And he called out,
Hey, man, Adam Page!
The commentators didn't know what to make of it.
You want that rematch? You got it right here, right now. Let's go.
They said they didn't even know if Adam Page was in the building.
Hangman Punk's in the ring.
Shut the f*** up! Shut the f*** up! We're doing something really important here. Get the f*** out of here, Jeff! Get out, Jeff! Get out! What are you doing?
And CM Punk, when Adam Page doesn't respond to the challenge at all, no music is played, no nothing. The crowd boos.
My sentiments exactly.
CM Punk calls him a coward.
Now on to the important things. That's not cowboy shit, that's coward shit.
And then says,
And if anybody else has a problem with the champion, I suggest you come on down. You see, because everybody wants to be the champ until it's time to do champ.
And starts talking about Jon Moxley. Now, apparently, the road to Adam Page versus CM Punk had gotten far more ugly than any of us had realized. If you go back and watch CM Punk versus Adam Page when CM Punk wins the title, it seems like it's just two people doing business. But apparently resentments had been building and building and building. And when CM Punk went home with that injury, those resentments, not only did they not go anywhere, but they grew because CM Punk felt like there was a lack of an apology. In fact, he even referenced in the promo where he called out Adam Page, here's a little advice.
A little bit of advice, and I suggest you take.
Another shot at Adam Page, who had previously said,
I was part of the movement that created the entire company, and I'm a world champion. I don't know that I need their advice.
That he more valued the trial and error way of doing things. He said,
The apology must be as loud and as public as the disrespect. My sentiments exactly.
And he moves on. And none of us really knew what he was talking about.
It was not a planned comment. It was not part of any storyline.
Is there anybody theorizing what the beef is here at its core between CM Punk and Hangman Page?
There was a promo several months back when they were building up the CM Punk versus Hangman match.
You talk a big game about workers' rights, yeah? Well, you've shown the exact opposite since you've gotten here.
All your misplaced anger. You ain't mad at me, you're mad at myself. Yourself. Shake my hand.
You probably remember it was a very intense promo.
I will be defending all elite wrestling from you.
There was a lot of stuff in it that people were asking, what's he talking about? Punk coming in and we need to protect the locker room. I forget all the exact verbiage, but
what did CM Punk ever say or do to Hangman Page or anybody else in AEW? All of a sudden, over the last few weeks, why is he so angry? What did CM Punk ever say or do?
In this world, to deserve an empty-headed, fucking dumb
like Hangman Adam Page to go out on national television and go into business for himself. For what? What did I do, Dave? What did I ever do?
You tell me.
Didn't do a goddamn thing.
It was a backstage deal.
Now, does it predate his time there and carried itself?
It was something AEW related that happened backstage, and there's a million people have all sorts of theories, and the predominant theories, they very well may be right, but basically, Hangman said something to the effect of, you're putting on a friendly face, but you're a locker room cancer. And so that was what he said, and Punk took
What he said didn't matter to me. But when you sit, peeling the curtain back, ladies and gentlemen, and again, if you want to believe all the bad things about me, please do, just leave me alone. If I'm working with you and we sit and we talk and I was very gracious, hammered out this promo. Oh, if you say this, what if you say this? Okay, I'll say this. Oh, if you say that, I'll say this. Okay, great. And then he proceeds to go on live TV and not say any of the shit that we talked about. I can't hear him because the crowd's so loud and I'm looking at him and I have to really pay attention to what he's saying because my responses matter. I can't just say what I had planned because it's not going to match what he's saying to me. And he's saying some shit and I don't know what he's talking about. And I'm just like, man, why would you do this? Why would you ruin, and you're just shitting on me and you're shitting on the business. Why would you do this? So I don't know what's going on, but I was a professional. And afterwards I spoke to him and I was like, why'd you do that? And he thinks I got one of his friends who hasn't been fired.
And I talked about the pressure of being a champion. I let that get to me, I think, more than I thought I would. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. I thought I would win the championship and I would be happy and I would be the perfect version of myself. And I wasn't either. I let that pressure, I guess, affect a lot of friendships. And I guess that's, the cynic in me wants to say that's something that maybe comes with being champion. But I think just as a personal thing, maybe that's a bit of a failure, something to work on.
And I had never done anything to any of those guys.
More interesting people on the AEW side of things for me to wrestle. Young Bucks, Kenny Omega.
If they're basing how their attitude is towards me based on some bullshit their friend told them, well, I can't help you. But I got plenty of friends who don't like certain people, and I keep relationships business.
Right.
And yeah, that's everything went off the rails from there. It's a shame. But I went to Tony and the lawyer and I said, you need to fix that. Respect is the default. I respect everybody until you do something that makes me lose my respect for you.
In the build-up to CM Punk versus Adam Page, the tension that was existing in those promos was more real than any of us realized.
At that same press conference, media journalist Nick Hausman went on to ask CM Punk about that Hangman promo, as he said that promo felt very real.
A lot of people were talking about the promo exchange you had with Page leading into Double or Nothing, how it felt like there was some real tension there. Do you feel like you're blending in with this locker room, or do you still feel like you're kind of somebody on the outside trying to find his way in?
Punk responds just how wise he is
to the regular mix of AEW.
I've grown so wise in my old age that I'll do my best to be as diplomatic as I possibly can with this answer. If there's people backstage that don't like me, it's a minority, and if anybody says that nobody wants me here and nobody likes me, I like to say that nobodies don't like me and nobodies don't want me here. Run with that.
Fair enough.
That is the story of everything after MJF and CM Punk. There's one story going on in front of the camera, and there's one story going on behind the camera. After his return, it never gets on the right page. We also find out that apparently Punk is of the belief that Adam Page and his friends and the Young Bucks and whoever are leaking stories about Punk that don't make Punk look good to dirt sheets. The reason we find that out is because of what happens next.
In CM Punk's first promo back from injury, he calls out Hangman Page, but no one comes out, and then labels him a coward, going off script. No one addresses this backstage, but Brian Alvarez would launch a tirade attacking Punk for deviating from the script and targeting Hangman.
It was a great show, with the exception of the first 2 minutes or whatever.
Well, I don't know. If I'm a fan, I don't think that first 2 minutes there was anything wrong with it at all. In fact, it gave me a lot of intrigue.
Mirroring Hangman's earlier actions toward Punk.
Theorizing what the beef is here at its core between CM Punk and Hangman Page.
I just explained all of it.
Well,
I explained all of it.
Brian, time
Yes.
out. Before you get all jumpy and everything, I know you explained all of it.
Tony Khan holds a roster meeting just days before the All Out 2022 pay-per-view, but he avoids mentioning the Colt Cabana issue.
They also had a meeting backstage. It was essentially Tony Khan talking about State of the Union. Apparently, there are people that believe that Colt Cabana is not there because of CM Punk. CM Punk has denied this. This was not addressed at all in this meeting. The Young Bucks and Jericho and Kenny Omega, I believe, all spoke. And what I was told when the meeting was over was, for the most part, everybody left the meeting feeling better than when they went in. Now, not everybody.
The EVPs, Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, Cabana's best friends lead part of that meeting, further eroding Punk's trust in that locker room, especially since Hangman is also tight with them.
Because, you know, there have been a lot of reports about people disgruntled and issues backstage at AEW. And you know, Tony did lay down the law. And so hopefully the fact that he laid down the law might help things a little bit. But at the end of the day, there are people that get the law laid down on and there are others that don't. And don't think people don't notice that.
So Punk would go to Dynamite before All Out of 2022 and lose to Jon Moxley in a squash.
Days later, Dave Meltzer reports in the Wrestling Observer that Punk tried to get Cabana fired.
Jon Moxley is then declared the undisputed AEW champion, and CM Punk wonders if he's going to be able to compete at all. A week later, Ace Steel gets CM Punk all revved up again. CM Punk signs his name on a contract. We go to All Out with CM Punk getting his rematch.
I feel like there has been a lot of backstage news and rumors that's been coming out of AEW that surprised a lot of fans, from all the way from MJF to Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. I mean, the great thing about wrestling is that you never know if it's real or not. It could be a storyline, it could be real. But what's your thought on all these news coming out of backstage?
I'm actually pretty excited about it. I think our roster is going to be stronger than it's been in a long time. There's a lot of competition for the spots. Yeah. And this is not a doll factory. This is not a normal place of business. Our product here is professional wrestling matches, and people not liking each other and not getting along can actually be positive, as opposed to most workplaces where people not getting along is detrimental. Not everybody needs to get along in the pro wrestling business. They don't all need to be friends to do this. You know, I'll be honest, a lot of the pro wrestlers don't like each other, and that's fine with me. I don't think people watch wrestling to watch people be friends.
CM Punk is able to triumphantly face Jon Moxley and once again win the AEW World Championship. This is a really significant night in the history of AEW, and probably the best ending to an AEW pay-per-view since we got the debuts of Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. Because at this All Out,
I'll make it short, as some of you gotta get home. I know these 72-hour shows are a little much sometimes, but it means a lot to a guy like me that you stay for the main event. My heart is full. We are Chicago. Thank you.
not only does Punk get this crowning moment, but a mystery man had won the casino ladder match, which had allowed this mystery man a poker chip that he could cash in for an opportunity at the AEW championship whenever he wanted. As CM Punk stands in the ring holding the title above his head, that masked man who won the poker chip comes out, takes the mask off, and it's MJF, a superstar who for the last 3 months had been gone from AEW in a situation that was somewhere between a work and a shoot, and one that still to this day is unclear how much of it was true and how much of it is storyline. But it all worked its way into the storyline, unlike so much of what was happening with Punk, and I'll never forget.
After realizing he suffered another major injury in his match with Jon Moxley, Punk heads over to the AEW press conference. Seeing these alleged journalist goofs, CM Punk feels as if everyone is out to get him. Instead of taking questions, he would cut off Nick Hausman, assuming that Nick was friends with Colt Cabana, due to the fact that Punk had first met Hausman back in 2014, while he was covering the CM Punk and Colt Cabana lawsuit against WWE. Punk then learns from Nick that they no longer get along. This sparks a crucial relationship that we will be getting back to.
New AEW World Champion CM Punk would sit next to Tony Khan with the AEW title. He'd eat a muffin. And instead of talking about MJF at all, he would go on arguably the most infamous rant at this point in the history of professional wrestling, I would say.
After winning the AEW Championship for a second time at All Out 2022, Punk unleashes what becomes known as Brawl Out at the press conference. He verbally attacks the EVPs, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, AEW's Backstage culture, and Hangman Page, claiming he had tried to squash the issues, but no one acted. If anyone has a problem with me, they should take it up with me, he says while leaving the press conference attended by Meltzer, Alvarez, and other wrestling media. This ignites a fuse, as the Elite would confront Punk backstage, leading to a real fight. Another rumor emerges from Meltzer, claiming that the Young Bucks are in contract talks with possibly going to WWE.
After the media scrum, or the CM Punk part of the media scrum, apparently the Elite go to see CM Punk in his dressing room to confront what's been said. A brawl breaks out. That date...
You must have kind of had conversations on both sides of the coin, right? So, that being said...
Before going to AEW in 2020, were there ever any talks? I knew you were on Backstage that show.
Yeah. See, I thought Backstage was going to be like a backdoor way to get me in.
Guys, I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to work for them. So,
and I told everybody from Fox, I was just like, look, I want to work for you guys. This sounds like fun, but if it's any way tied to trying to get me back, like, we're not going to have the greatest, business relationship. Because at that time, I had a handshake thing.
Instead of being remembered for All Out, is only remembered for Brawl Out. The new AEW champion CM Punk and the new Trios champions, the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, are all taken off television until further notice. And the next night on Dynamite, Tony Khan, after just creating an interim title because CM Punk was injured, now has to announce that the Trios and the AEW World title are vacated because of events that have to be investigated. And he can't say much more than that.
The Elite would eventually return, but Punk remains unmentioned for much longer. During this period, Punk calls Hausman to apologize for initially lashing out at him, and they strike up a friendship. With no one from AEW contacting him, and others spreading their narrative, Punk uses Hausman to share his truth. Many assume Punk will never return, but that changes when Warner Discovery offers Tony Khan a Saturday TV show.
10 months after the initial event, the first episode of a new television show called AEW Collision is announced. First, it's not announced who's going to be on the show. It's not announced where the first taping is taking place.
After attempting to negotiate a contract buyout with Tony Khan, he accepts the offer to control and headline AEW Collision, though Khan forces all parties to sign NDAs.
But when we can finally lock it down, it is announced that the first taping is going to take place live from the United Center in Chicago, and CM Punk will be on the show.
For Punk to headline, allowing their locker rooms to be split and avoiding further clashes with the Elite.
CM Punk makes his return to AEW, and there's all these rumors about the Saturday show existing so that there can be a space where the Elite and CM Punk do not have to mix at all.
Punk reveals he's tried to apologize but has been ignored and directed to speak to lawyers. In June 2023, Punk takes creative control of AEW Collision, crafting gripping feuds with Samoa Joe and mentoring Ricky Starks. Ratings soar, and Punk appears to thrive in this new role.
CM Punk's return promo, just like his original promo, is excellent. He acknowledges the problem. He talks about how soft some of the people are in the AEW locker room. A shot right across the bow. Feels like he's starting to build something on Collision. More so than anybody else, more so than the commentators, more so than anybody else on the show. CM Punk is the one guy who refers to himself as a Collision guy, who separates himself and the people on Collision from anybody else in AEW. He takes out the AEW championship that he left the company with, spray paints an X on it, and says this is the new AEW Real World Championship. No reference is ever made to the fact that MJF is the actual AEW champion. MJF is on the show with CM Punk. They don't interact at all. We don't talk about it.
I think MJF is great, and I think where he wasn't great is when he catered to that small niche internet audience.
And he told Punk, me versus you at World's End after I'm done with Cole. And Punk was like, you're going to throw shit away for Adam Cole. And then Max was like, and Max told him to his face, my thing with Adam Cole is more over than everything you're doing.
But again, there's levels, so if that's their audience, go for it.
Until weekly leaks surface about locker room unrest.
We start to hear people talking again. As you hear one story, it snowballs, and all these stories start to leak from the set of Collision, and then you hear this other one, and some of them are ridiculous. First time I heard this story, it was ridiculous. I said, what story even is this? They said, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, he liked a tweet that was not nice to CM Punk. You go, oh, couldn't have done that, that's terrible. But the story is the Jungle Boy is going to take a week off. It's cleared. It's totally fine. But in order to explain his absence from television, he wants to take a bump on real glass. And it's cleared. It's totally good. But then CM Punk comes in because it's going to happen on Collision. And CM Punk says, we're not doing that. On Collision, you're not doing a bump on real glass. We don't use real glass here. It's dumb.
And I wasn't just hired to be a wrestler. I very much had two contracts. I was consultant to Tony or whatever the hell it was. So if you're going to tell me that, oh, you can't even tell other wrestlers to do what?
We don't use real glass. Which honestly, in that instance, Punk is right. It's silly to use real glass. You're hearing all this stuff. We don't know if it's true. This is just what we're hearing.
With rumors of Punk banning talent and criticizing others on air, signaling trouble ahead.
So then Jungle Boy goes to All In, the biggest show AEW's ever done. He's working the pre-show.
At All In 2023, Jack Perry taunts Punk on live TV with a real glass jab.
He does a fisherman suplex to Hook. They land on the windshield of a car, and Jungle Boy goes, real glass, cry me a river, right into the camera. And you go, oh boy, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the internet stuff.
Backstage, Punk confronts Perry, leading to a physical brawl.
Depending on who you hear, CM Punk pushed Jungle Boy, or CM Punk high-faced Jungle Boy, or fists were thrown, or whatever. But most accounts of what happened are CM Punk either shoved or pie-faced Jungle Boy. There was a brief altercation. CM Punk immediately put him in some kind of guillotine choke, and then Samoa Joe was there to break it up instantly. As were a bunch of other people, I suppose. I don't know. This is all coming from dirt sheets and rumor reports. There are those that say CM Punk, in a fit of rage, lunged towards Tony Khan, and CM Punk told him that he quit. They have to figure out how they're going to start this pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is about to start. It's AEW's biggest thing they've ever done. They're trying to figure out now the pay-per-view is a few minutes delayed. They're figuring out who they're going to get to go on first, that they can't get Punk out there. Samoa Joe gets everything cooled off. We do Samoa Joe versus CM Punk. While CM Punk and Samoa Joe are out there having a great match, by the way. I loved it.
Punk still wrestles Samoa Joe and wins, but security would escort him out a few hours later.
And the next thing we hear, the rumor mill is going crazy with what's happened. Immediately, somehow people find out that this all went down. Tony Khan at the media scrum says that there was an incident, and then he says goodbye to the audience, hard cam side, and salutes. And you go, oh, CM Punk exits the building. Tony Khan at the media scrum says that there was an incident, that they have started an internal investigation, and that's all he can say about it.
This disaster destroys Punk's AEW dream, forcing him to rethink his past and fight for his legacy elsewhere. The backstage brawl and subsequent firing made Punk's goal of reclaiming his legacy harder and more urgent. Over the next few days, Tony Khan fires him for cause.
He issues a statement, and it said that they had released CM Punk from his deals,
aligning with Perry and the Elite, ending CM Punk's AEW run.
This is what he had to do, and he apologized to the fan base.
And this is the first time, this incident, that I have ever feared for my safety in a wrestling show, that I have ever feared for my life in a wrestling show.
One of the toughest things that he ever had to do, and like that, CM Punk's chapter of AEW history concludes.
In AEW's official stance brands Punk as the troublemaker, his enemies solidify their control, isolating him further. The Elite in AEW's actions tighten the noose, pushing Punk to the brink as his support dwindled. One phone call, one fight, one plan. How CM Punk flipped wrestling script to reclaim his throne. CM Punk's return to wrestling with AEW ends in disaster. AEW forgot to pick up Punk at Heathrow, explodes into chaos. The Young Bucks, AEW's Golden Boys, leak their side to Wrestling's Observer. Punk's painted as the hothead, and the media smells blood. Casual fans, it's simple. Punk's the villain. But behind the headlines, one of a man ready to fight back. Enter Nick Hausman.
Would you like to see Phil Brooks back in WWE? Oh, Philly Phil.
At the WWE 2K event, Hausman cornered Seth Rollins with a loaded question. Would you want CM Punk back in WWE?
Stay away, you cancer. Get away from me forever.
That outburst made headlines, and Hausman knew it would. By putting Punk on Rollins' lip, he ensured the straight-edge superstar stayed in the conversation. The guy behind House of Wrestling, he's got a direct line to Punk, and he's dropping bombshells. Punk wasn't even told about a suspension before the axe fell. October 3rd, another exclusive, a peace meeting with the Elite, those Young Bucks, was canceled. Punk's camp is feeding Hausman gold, and the narrative shifts. He's not just a troublemaker. He's a guy wronged. Chris Jericho backstage joking with Punk at All In, per House of Wrestling, paints him as amicable, countering his divisive reputation and making him a less risky hire. Punk's playing chess, while AEW is playing checkers. House of Wrestling spins Finn Balor's "I'd wrestle a broomstick if they paid me" into Finn Balor on WWE match against CM Punk. Money talks. WWE stars get asked about Punk. They don't say much, but the headlights scream, they want him. It's a media mirage, and Punk's the magician. The Young Bucks push back through Wrestling Observer, but Punk's got a new playbook. Use the media that torched him to light his way back.
You got time on your hands?
Yeah, I got some time on my hands for the next 2 months.
All right, fair enough.
It's a classic underdog story, but Punk's not waiting for cheers. He's building bridges back to WWE. But Hausman didn't stop there. During a media call, he asked Shawn Michaels if he'd bring Punk back to NXT. Michaels played it cool.
Well, there's another AEW name that became available here, it sounds like, in the last month or so, and that's CM Punk. A lot of people are wondering if WWE would even welcome him back into the fold. I was just wondering, would you welcome him into NXT, or do you think that WWE would welcome him back in general?
Well, of course we'd welcome him here in NXT. My guess is he probably would want to go to the main. Go to the main roster would be my guess. But I always enjoy working with Phil. Again, didn't get to do it much, but I don't. I'll say this: I understood him. I think there were, again, whether you want to say there were similarities in us. Look, obviously that's for people to decide higher up on the food chain than I am. He's a guy that does numbers and makes money. I think that would be a risk reward ratio that I'm sure from a company standpoint they'd have to consider. But when it comes to would we take him in NXT and have him on our television? Are you kidding me? Of course I would.
And Shawn Michaels' NXT interest becomes, would love to have CM Punk in WWE. These exaggerations suggest WWE talent and officials want him. It wasn't a commitment, but it was enough to keep that buzz alive. Hausman had a knack for this, asking the right questions to the right people, keeping Punk's name hot, chipping away at Triple H's resistance. Then Nick Khan, Punk's former agent, tells ESPN's Mark Ramundi, "We only have respect for Phil. We wish him nothing but the best." a public nod amplified by House of Wrestling to frame WWE's leadership as open to him. Punk's media gambit gains traction as Fightful Select Sean Rossap reports Punk's interest in a WWE Royal Rumble return, later shifting to Survivor Series speculation. Hausman keeps the heat on, even as he lingered in wrestling limbo.
A lot of people have been asking on our text line, Phil, if you're going to be at WWE Survivor Series here next month.
They're asking if I'm going to be there. I think it's sold out. I think tickets are hard to get.
We had to ask for the people. You knew that was going to happen.
Is it possible that you would perform there?
Punk's not bitter, he's better. Hausman reports he's not suing AEW, a move that defies expectations of legal retaliation and portrays him as a level-headed professional, signaling he's free and drama-free. Samoa shrugs off the all-in fight. Ricky Starks calls Punk a great rival who shows respect. The media turning. Punk's no longer the victim. He's the comeback kid. I thought he was washed. Now, I'm rooting for him. Enters contract negotiations with TNA, exploring a path outside of the major leagues. This move opens a backdoor to WWE as their partnership with TNA likely alerts them to Punk's potential debut. A rumor TNA wrestler Moose confirms in 2025. House of Wrestling keeps the narrative alive, reiterating AEW's Heath Row fiasco and reporting AEW collisions plummeting viewership post-Punk, with WrestleNomics noting its lowest numbers ever. This ties the show's struggles to his absence, underscoring his drawing power and pitching him as a valuable asset to WWE. Qualities aimed at easing Triple H's objections. These leaks create buzz, pressuring WWE to consider him. His career feels dead, but the TNA talks and media leaks hint at another lifeline, showcasing his strategic foresight. From media prey to WWE predator, the week of Thanksgiving 2023, Khan calls Punk, overriding Triple H's objections and offers him a deal.
So I got a call from Nick Khan. So it was the week of Thanksgiving, Monday. I spoke to him.
There was a couple of conversations that happened between Punk and Nick Khan.
Stuff that was at one point serious to probably both of us that is like silly now. And we just kind of laughed and buried a hatchet.
Did you feel like that conversation had to happen for this to proceed and be successful? Like you couldn't just show up on Saturday at the arena without having that conversation with him?
I think there's a world where it very much didn't have to happen.
My concern would just be, what's the fit?
CM Punk shocked the world by returning to WWE at Survivor Series. The Chicago crowd lost their minds, but not everyone was celebrating. He outsmarted the Young Bucks, outplayed the Wrestling Observer, and turned Nick Hausman into his megaphone. One man, one plan, one epic comeback. But it also marked the beginning of a mystery. Nick Hausman, a wrestling journalist who'd spent years keeping Punk's name alive, vanished from the scene shortly after. Coincidence or something more? Before Punk's return, Nick Hausman was a relentless force in wrestling media. He wasn't just reporting stories, he was shaping them. When Punk finally returned, it felt like Hausman's work had paid off. His final article. But then, just as Punk's star rose again, Nick Hausman went missing. By December 2023, his social media silent, his bylines vanished, his podcast Rumor Innuendo stopped, cold. The wrestling world noticed. Fans speculated wildly. Had Hausman burned out, cashed out, or had his relentless pursuit of the Punk narrative made him a target? Nick Hausman remains a ghost. Punk's back in WWE, cutting promos and chasing titles, but his secret weapon, nowhere to be found.
No spanking!
Some fans think Hausman's job was done. Punk was home, and the journalist faded into obscurity. Others whisper darker theories. That his insider knowledge and persistent questions got him too close to the flame. Whatever the truth, the man who kept CM Punk on wrestlers' mouths through interviews with media calls, years of calculated prodding, vanished just as Punk's second WWE chapter began. CM Punk's return was a wrestling fairy tale, but it came with a twist no one saw coming. Nick Hausman, the unsung hero who made sure we never forgot Punk, disappeared into the shadows. Was he silenced, sidelined, or did he simply walk away? One thing's for sure, in wrestling, the real drama isn't just in the ring, it's in the stories left untold, and Nick Hausman is one we may never unravel. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know below. Are you Team Punk? Make sure to check out our other deep documentary dives.
The Rock embraced the dark side in his latest return to the ring. In this final run, do you think there's any chance we see darker side of John Cena?
You get a phone call, hey, would you ever consider doing this with me? Or whatever it is, where you go like, wow, that's an amazing opportunity. Maybe I would go in a different direction.